of the joys of my life has been I was able to be my parents' pastor. I understand that could possibly bring maybe pressure, but it's always has been a joy for me. I remember my dad. He would call me sometimes, and he would say, "Son, I need a pastoral visit." And I'd say, "Oh, well, sure, Dad." And he said, "Would you bring your chainsaw when you come?" And it made me realize that nothing had really changed, because growing up, whenever we would spend family time together, it usually involved work. We would get together, we'd have a work project, and because there wasn't a lot of extra money in the family, and my dad at that time had two sons, he felt like there wasn't anything his two sons couldn't do with a little bit of encouragement. And so whenever we would get together, he would call that quality time. And whenever my children started coming along and I want to go out and work in the yard, I'd say, "Hey guys, let's go out and spend some quality time together." And they'd say, "Oh, Dad, we like being with you, but we don't like spending quality time with you." The other day, someone mentioned that my older brother, that whenever he comes into town to visit, he's always involved in a work project. And they said, "You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have your brother work every time he comes to visit you." And I told him, I said, "You just don't understand our family." I said, "That is what we do. Whenever we invite someone to come over, there's going to be work involved, and that's what we enjoy doing together." I think back years ago, whenever I was going to build my house here in Lexington County, and we had the land, and so I invited my brother over, and he came over, and it's sand land, and so we laid out the dimensions of the house. I gave him a shovel, and I got a shovel, and in that day we dug the foundation to my house. And so I knew what the specs were and how deep and how wide, and we dug it just like it was supposed to be dug, and we just did it by hand that day. And so I can give my brother partial credit for the foundation, that the house that I still live in today, that it's standing there because of his good digging skills. Well, my name is Richard Coleman, and I'm the pastor at Shepherd Church of the Nazarene in Lexington, South Carolina, and it's great to spend just a few moments with you today. Well, I've been looking in the Gospel of Luke, and in Luke, we find that Jesus has just been talking to the people about loving their enemies, about not judging other people, and also about self-examination. So Jesus has just finished this sermon, I guess you could say, and then he looks out at the crowd and he says, "A person who pays attention to what I just said, and a person who lives their life according to those principles, they will have a good foundation to base their life upon. And when tough times come, they'll be able to withstand that." Jesus also went ahead and said the other way. He said, "Those people that hear my words and do not do what I've told them to do, then they're going to be like a house that has no foundation. And whenever the rushing waters come through, it's going to pick that house up and it's going to wash it away." So many people want just enough of God to get by. And whether it's just enough to please their family or just enough to make it look like they're going down the right road, I'm not sure what just enough might be in a different person's mind. But there are so many that I see, they want just enough God. They want just enough church to make it look like they're getting by. But you see, that's not God's way at all. God's made it pretty clear in His Word that He wants us to love Him with all of our heart, all of our soul, and all of our mind. not just enough, not just a little bit. He wants all of us. Matter of fact, in Revelation, whenever Jesus was talking to John, and he was talking about some of the different churches and scenarios that were going on, Jesus said that he would rather that someone be hot or cold. In other words, given all to God or given none to God, versus someone that is just lukewarm. Jesus said in Revelation that if someone is just lukewarm, he would rather just spit them out of his mouth. It's pretty serious words, and when we look at that, we realize that God wants us to be all in, totally dedicated to him, so that he can be in control of our life. I had an opportunity to talk to a gentleman the other day, and he realized that I was a minister, and so he was raised in the church, and he was telling me different scriptures, and he just looked at me and he said, "I know all the scriptures." He said, "I just don't live by them." You see, just enough of God to try to maybe get by. And that's not the way that God looks at it. He wants us to have a firm foundation so that everything that comes along in life, that we'll be able to handle it because we know that we are secure in God's will. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May you truly be able to walk on a firm foundation throughout this week. Thanks for taking the time and viewing today.